flooding of 2012 if water is released from Lagdo Dam in Cameroon. And the National Emergency Management Agency on Monday declared a national disaster in 4 states, Kogi, Niger, Anambra, and Delta, and placed 8 other frontline states under strict monitoring. But how prepared is Nigeria to stem this annual cycle of ravaging floods? Can some good be derived from flooding? And what is the attitude to warning signals? Now, these are just some of the issues we'll be raising tonight. But first, let's get to see this report by Nia Ogidi.
Every landlord and landlady in this environment, they are now homeless.
It is a battle between nature and humanity. But from all indications, nature seems to be having an upper hand. In some cases, experts conclude that nature is reacting violently to man's inhumanity to it.
Building pattern, no drainages, or where they do exist, they are all blocked. Building within the floodplains.
Many riparian states, including Kogi, Adamawa, Niger, and those located at the tributaries of the Atlantic Ocean in the down southern part of Nigeria, are yet to recover from the 2012 flood, before the arrival of another devastating one, with lives and property giving in to the devastating hands of flood.
Back now, go borrow this money. Me I take the do farm. Now come me say my farm, I not get farm again.
So far, more than 5 bodies have been recovered.
It is a harrowing moment for many households, and the water level is rising due to the heavy rains, spilling of Kanji, Jeba, and Shiroro dams, as well as floodwaters from neighboring Benin Republic.
100 kilometers downstream, you have Jeba. Jeba also has opened their own. Where is it moving to? It's heading from Lokoja to Anambra. From Anambra, it will get to Delta, then to Bayelsa State.
Lagdo Dam is not spilling, and they didn't open it. Lagdo Dam can only fill the capacity when it reached 21.6 meters. But as of today, he gave us the focus in Cameroon for Lagdo Dam is 21.2 meters.
The National Emergency Management Agency is putting in all our energies to meet up the momentary challenges of relief materials, medical treatment, and relocation of victims, which has resulted in the reactivation of disaster response unit of the military and stockpiling of relief materials in NEMA warehouses across the country, valued at 3 billion naira.
A massive stock here, and processing activities is going on in flour mills, so we come to inspect it to make sure that things are going properly, are going well.
As NEMA is stockpiling and reactivating, the water level is also rising. This exponential rise in the water level compelled NEMA on Monday, 17th of September 2018, to declare flood in 4 states as a national disaster in a solemn ceremony in the confluence state of Kogi, while 8 other states are under strict observation. Less than 24 hours after that declaration, NEMA has distributed water purification machines to the 4 states to curb the outbreak of epidemics as a result of contaminated water.
So right now, with the flood incidents around the country, it's highly possible that all the water sources that people used to drink have been contaminated. And we don't want a situation where there will be an outbreak of cholera in the camps. So what we do is we deploy these machines. That's why they are for emergencies. They get there, they start operation. In 1 hour, you can have 1,000 liters of clean drinking water for people to drink.
It is a consensus among experts that climate change is also contributing its own share to this yearly unwanted guest. They, however, advise states to relocate their victims to higher grounds and educate those reluctant to leave their homes that one has to be alive to claim one's ancestral home. Nia Ogidi, NTA News.
And that sets the tone for tonight's discussion. Let me introduce our guests to you. I'd like to welcome to this program the Director General of the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, Mr. Femi Haja. Thanks for being here tonight.
It's my pleasure.
All right. Also here is Dr. Umar Binder. He is Secretary to the Adamawa State Government. Dr. Binder, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Let me also welcome to this program the Director General, Niger State Emergency Management Agency, Ahmed Ibrahim Inga. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, sir.
And also joining us tonight is Professor Hilary Inyang, U.S. Ambassador's Distinguished Scholar to Ethiopia and former President, Global Alliance for Disaster Reduction. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you very much.
Well, as usual, we acquaint you with the procedure. At the appropriate time, you can get to be part of the discussion in the studio. And we always say this every Tuesday. Once you call in and your call gets through, just turn down the volume of your TV set to avoid the hurlback or the echo. And the best way to know that your call has been passed through is you'll see your name on screen. Once you see your name on screen, it means your call is through to the studio. Don't wait for any other thing. Just go right ahead, ask your question or make a comment, and whatever issues you raise, we can assure you that our guests here tonight will respond to them. So once again, welcome to NTA Tuesday Live. It's not really a nice thing to talk about disasters all the time, and it's a bit on the downside. But first, let's get a closer look at the current state of flooding across the country. And then let's turn to you, DG Nema, and let's hear how you describe the current state of flooding.
Well, the facts remain it's a very devastating disaster. It's a disaster that is natural in nature but aggravated by the climate change, as we all are aware. Since February, when the first pronouncement was made by the NAMET and NISA, we never constantly and keenly been watching the situation until on the 6th, when we observed the situation was really getting too bad. We quickly summoned an emergency meeting. And then we set out a 6th committee to visit the frontline state so that they could get to know the exact situation. Their report was really worrisome, was disturbing. When they came back, we also sat down and reviewed. I must tell you, the situation now is worse than that of 2012, because today the level is 11.14 meters at the measuring station confluence of River Niger and Benue in Lokoja. The same day, 2012, it was 10.61. That is to tell you that the situation currently is worse than that of last year. So it's really devastating disaster.
All right, we'll come back to you and look at those figures again. But let's come to Dr. Binder, who, well, Adama has been in the path of flooding. And what is the situation like now?
Well, for Adamawa, it just joins the other states as a tradition yearly to have flooding. Yes, the intensity is very, very serious this year. In addition to what we've been experiencing to do with the insurgency effects on people, we've suffered herdsmen, farmers' challenges. So in terms of immediate term things, it's really, really very hectic in Adamawa State. The flooding has taken over many, many villages, very, very critically in about 7 to 8 local government areas, because they're on the edges of the River Benue. But as you know very well, Adamawa has mountains as well, and now these mountains serve as literally water harvesting structures, and the runoff from the mountains gets into the tributaries and small rivers and overflood all that. Now, if you put all that together with the traditional function of the people, they are subsistence farmers, they are small-scale farmers, they're constantly looking for water bodies to survive. And all water bodies tend to go very close to lakes or rivers. And so when these floods come, they literally take over all the activities of these rural farmers, and in some cases take off their villages too. So it's very critical, and that's literally the current situation.
All right. Well, Niger is one of the 4 states that a national disaster has been declared in, and well, let's just give us the picture of what it is like in Niger.
Yeah, so the situation in Niger is over devastating, because if we are talking about flooding in Nigeria, Niger will come first. But I wonder what parameter the professionals are using to always place us either second or third. In Niger, we are having about 8 rivers crisscrossing the state. We are housing 3 hydrological dams. Kanji Dam alone is storing about 15 billion cubic meters of water, then followed by Shiroro with 5 billion, then Jaba with 1 billion. So whether there is any prediction of flooding or not, naturally in Niger State we experience flooding year in, year out. What differs is the severity or the magnitude or the intensity of rain in that year.
And this year it's been...
this year is so serious, it's devastating. Our people are in serious hardship.
Prof, let's begin to understand this. Yes, climate change and all such things, but is it just climate change? What percentage can be attributed to human activities? And, of course, there's also the other aspect of it, which some people have expressed fears about, whether it's plausible or not. And they think perhaps a lot of things are happening in developed parts of the world, which around here we are not aware of, and these may be leading to an exacerbation of flooding around the world.
Well, as you've alluded to, it takes increase in intensity of the forcing factor, in this case meteorological factors that we now all recognize responsible for climate, come as a result of climate change. But then the population of Nigeria has also increased, so people are inhabiting marginal areas, some of the areas that were not previously inhabited. So naturally, even though you have had intensity increase in precipitation because the rainy season is getting shorter, but the amount of precipitation is staying the same, so it's getting more intense. Then you have greater erosive forces, so you're going to have that erosion in many parts of the country. The floods have increased in intensity. 100-year floods are now happening at greater frequency than before. And then we are going to have a combination of both the forcing factor and the vulnerability of the country, especially in certain parts of the country like Niger State. Lots of places in the Niger Delta, and believe it or not, some states in the far north. It is not only in the lowland areas of Nigeria that you have floods. You also have floods in the upper plateau areas too.
All this is just factors of climate change.
I know some people are suspecting that somehow the advanced countries are doing something to stop the atmospheric circulation pattern, but that is far from the truth.
Well, we've heard stories about testing of, all kinds of weapons under sea, and this may further push up the level of seawater. Is there any chance something like that is plausible?
Not in the list. It's not possible.
Okay, yes. Meteorological factors. Yes. It is still raining. Now, we watch the weather forecast tonight. Tomorrow's forecast still shows rain across the country. And so, the rain is not letting up. And we can expect that more rivers would rise in water levels. And, we may as well have flooding on our hands for some time. So, with all the past experiences, a lot of people will ask, why would it always seem that we are caught out? If we know that this will happen, it's been happening over years, why are we not adequately prepared when it happens?
Well, it's all issue about, on political will. I must tell you, after the cessation of last year's rain, National Emergency Management Agency, in conjunction with Ministry of Environment, organized and set in motion certain process to ensure that the issue of desilting smaller canals and also scale up the campaign of refuse dumping. In some cases, it's really worrisome. So we are able to, the government was able to convene all the governors in a forum, that is the National Economic Council, and it was agreed that the effort of federal government was to catalyze this process so that every responsible member of the governance, or rather at levels of the governance, is brought together so that we could face this matter. As speaking now, an understanding is reached whereby the federal government will put in 30% of the needed resources, while the state will put in 30%, and a presidential committee on flooding relief and rehabilitation is expected to put in about 40%. So this is to say the government is not sitting down, is trying to arrest the situation to provide permanent solution. One last other thing is, immediately after the cessation of this process, we will table a proposal to the government whereby the state government will be made to sign an agreement to condition precedents to intervention, provide counterpart funding, and then that agreement will be signed between federal government. This is a proposal. We are working on that to ensure that the major rivers, is desilted. It's a major project. It's something that may take 10, 15 years, but I want to assure you that this is in the process to ensure that we have lasting solution to this flooding menace.
All right. We're still talking about being prepared to face this what has become an annual challenge. Let's use Adama as a...
Well, it's actually very sad to see a great country like Nigeria that is literally domesticating this culture of flooding every year. Generally, the sources of flooding comes from, first, it's rain, basically. Weather is collecting on a dam, and the dam is going to open its spillway to avoid being completely destroyed, which is an economic strategy and also a technical strategy. But we've literally accepted that every year there will be flooding. And you will not hear of a University of Hydrology, you will not hear of a crack team of water management expertise anywhere in our country. You will not hear of research institutions that are coughing out knowledge that deliberately will deal with plenty of water flowing or standing or whatever. We always just fold our hands, and then most of the institutions we have literally turn their mandates to memo mandate. So they're just waiting for things to happen. In fact, it will not surprise me if you look at the budget of some institutions and you see, subheads in terms of managing flood even before it happens. So our country has to understand that the world has changed. You will not just continue praying and hoping that some solution will just drop from the sky. We have to understand that it is smart people, intelligent people, in most cases young people who will survive for a very long time, utilizing this high-level knowledge to even look at flooding as opportunities. Look at the water that you see there. It swallows villages whose houses are mud houses. This is just finished. It's dissolved. It's like sugar in coffee. But the water is brackish, is brown, is full of sedimentation and fine silt. Literally, this is full fertilizer flowing. Fantastic for agriculture. You will never hear excess water moving into agriculture. In most of the high areas, it's water today flooding and killing people and destroying. And then in 2 months, there's no water. So here we are, in a situation where we need to learn, we are not learning. We need to adapt, we are not adapting. We need to change strategy to ensure that the institutions we have in Nigeria, universities, full universities getting to nearly 200, and then this primitive flooding based on rain is just tormenting the whole country. And then people are even running towards higher levels of causes, saying global warming, global warming. Simple rain is fresh water. Canalize it to areas where there's no water. Create dams so that you can utilize the water continuously, and so on and so forth. So, to me, I think the country has to look at another strategy rather than constantly just looking for money and international donors to come and help you, moving people to camps and so on and so forth. Yes, they are immediately useful, but certainly there is a need for a senior strategy.
All right, we'll come to the issue of what benefits you can put the flood into. But again, back to Niger, and let's just see how prepared. Because, like you say, which is the truth, Niger, houses three main sources of, if you like, huge bodies of water. Those three dams. And you do know that every year there is the likelihood that you'd have flooding. What has been done over the years?
Yeah, over the years, what has been put in place, the issue of resettlement of the locals from the riverside to the hinterland. But unfortunately, sometimes we experience resistance from the locals. And looking inward to that, we develop a strategy and a plan of two abort system, which at the end of the day we are trying to achieve. One, if we move them to the hinterland, the children, the women, and the aged will move automatically. And where a woman and a child and the aged are, if they are safe, then those who feel they are still strong, they want to go to the water side and do their activities, economic activities, they are allowed go. But let our children, women, and the aged be saved. What we intend to achieve at the end of the day, the women will not want to go back to the water side. Automatically, we are safe from issue of flooding and submerging every year, year in, year out.
Right. Okay. Just speak about resistance, but isn't it a known issue that when you move people, it leads to a loss in, the economic activities and so many other things, and some of those whose lives depend on activities around those coastal lines will tell you, look, if I'm a fisherman, for instance, and you move me upland, what's going to happen? Am I going to now start being a carpenter or something? All right. And so, first you have these people saying, no, we can't move away from this place.
We already identified that problem. They can't move away from where they are used to. One, their economic activities are basically around waterside areas. That is why we are designing a two abort system for them. One for the rainy season and one for the dry season. When there are waters, every year NEMA and NIMET do call us for seasonal prediction. When we go back with those predictions, we embark on serious sensitization to our locals. Tell them this is, in fact, Minister of Agric do key in, because we look at what is the duration of the rain. Okay, well, we are going to experience early cessation of rain. Then look for better improved agric seeds to go to the farm. We do consider those factors. And the best way we think in Niger we can avoid flooding is this two abort system. Because whatever we are going to do to the locals, as he rightly said, we engage them in interactions. What we find out from them, after the flooding, they used to have a very fertile land for whatever agric purposes they may want to go into. So that is why they are so attached and glued to those river banks. So we are not, if we develop this two abort system, basically if women, children, and the aged are safe, believe me, the rate of casualty we need to record as in death toll will be drastically low.
All right. We'll return to other things. We'll ask later on how you deal with attitudes relating to customs and traditions. But well, is it any surprise to you? Because basically humans are the same everywhere. We've seen even in advanced countries where there have been predictions, early warnings about storms leading to flooding. People have resisted. You still have people who would rather ride the storm and stay back. So does it surprise you having that kind of resistance here? People know there's danger ahead, but they don't move. How do you deal with that?
Well, as you rightly said, and I'm very happy that he's proposing a system to counteract that behavior, which is not unique to Nigeria. Southeast Asia has the same issues, basically. And even in an advanced country like the United States, where we have experienced floods. Greatest floods were in the 1993, what we call the Midwest floods. They were floods that inundated very large segments of the United States. And those areas were pointed out in zonation maps, and people never wanted to leave them because in most parts of the world, even including the advanced countries, people are culturally tied to land. It's an emotional thing. And if you take the case of Nigeria, I think they're going to have to let go some of that in certain parts of this country. As global climate change continues to impact upon the country, there are large expanses of land in the Niger Delta that people are going to just have to move away, because the frequency of high intensity floods will define that those areas should not be inhabited. The cost of trying to make them inhabit those places far outweighs the benefits. One thing that Niger State is doing that I just dove my hat when I heard him make that report is the idea of taking advantage of what the flood brings. Okay, so when the flood recedes, the land becomes more fertile, so people can still come in and practice agriculture. But one requirement of that is that there's got to be very good zonation maps. That gets to what my friend Dr. Bindia was saying, the application of science. There are very many young people in Nigeria today who are deep in GIS type technologies that can help. A lot of the universities have departments of earth sciences. They have departments of geography. But the problem in most parts of the developing world is people are not applying that to very profound problems of this nature. Floods are going to happen in Nigeria for many, many, many years to come. As a matter of fact, they're going to be more intense. Because remember, there's a forcing factor, meteorology, and there is also the issue of vulnerability. More people occupy more land, they spread to areas because the land mass is constant in size, but the population is increasing. So that can only lead to intensity of these things, because it's the impact that is really the issue here.
Okay, let's come back to the issue of response now. And yes, you could prepare all you want, and there'll still be situations where you need quick interventions and responses. I'd like us to spend some time and talk about the response mechanism. First, early warning signs. Second, you spoke about it, the various agencies, NISA, NIMET. But then response. How good has been the response to disaster been?
Well, though it will amount to blowing the trumpet myself, but I believe Nigerians will stand as witness. Since we came since I came into this office, the response time was seriously reduced. Anytime there are days, it happens today, the following day we are there with relief items. As of today, in preparation for this, we set up what internationally been practiced emergency operation centers. We quickly said that are structures. We first activate the national contingency plan, whereby clusters were developed, clusters in terms of health related. We know who is the lead. We identify the support from the UN sectors, and that is how it goes. And also, we set up national emergency operation centers at the headquarters that comprises all the stakeholders. They are in charge of policy formulations and preparing response for the what we call territorial emergency operation centers. The structures are well developed, activated, and they have now moved to actions. All the 5 territorial EOCs are in place. They are to be supported by the respective zonal and operational offices. We have about 15, total of 15 of them. The staffs are well trained over the years by the United Nations organs, by the WFP, sometimes even international training. We have really competent people to handle the situation. At the really operation centers, what I mean, at the states, the communities were identified, personnel of various skills were deployed there, such as rescue, relief personnel, disaster risk reduction personnel. With the activation of the national, with the declaration of national disaster, the DRUs have been activated. There are military formations that are trained. They carry out series of simulation over the year before this. They have started working. For example, the Navy formation in Lokoja even carry out some search and rescue operations yesterday. Of course, we had problem with some of the communities. The commander reported to me that they refused to move. All persuasion, they refuse. So sometimes, in my own opinion, we may have no other option but to use some, let me use micro force to get them out, because the responsibility of governance, primary responsibility of governance, is saving life and properties. This afternoon, President made it very, very clear to us. If we can stop the losing a single life, we must do all we can to stop it and save the property. One other thing, the approval for the declaration of national disaster came with the President directed Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development to develop contingency plans to address the potential food shortage. This is to tell you how proactive this government is. The political will is there, and then we are moving. If you trying to stay back, they will push you from there. So you discover that the government is really serious to change the mentality, change the narrative. They want Nigeria to be a better country, and they want Nigerians to feel safe and happy in wherever they are.
Let's see if all this you've talked about is replicated at the state level. And of course, Dr. Bindo would ask you the same thing. You have challenges with stubborn people who would not relocate, right?
Well, yeah. You see, in Adamawa State, first we recognize that nearly 100% of the water that floods, it happens during rainy season. So it's rain. 2, the Lagdo Dam, when it's open from Cameroon, whatever happens, the first port of call is Adamawa State. And right from the word go, construction of Lagdo Dam had agreement scopes between Cameroon and Nigeria. In Adamawa State, we, to a certain extent, believe that Nigeria has not taken this agreement so closely and in the interest of its own benefits, so closely to make sure that it's not just water open and into our places. That should happen. Something extra has to happen. But be as it may, we have a very, very strong information movement system. Our Commissioner of Information is literally a disaster manager and a dynamo, supported by the governor. You cannot believe it. If immediately he sees the clouds moving, he is constantly on telephone calling all the emirs and all the district heads. What about people? Have they moved? Are they preparing? And so on. This is constant. And on our side, the bureaucrats, what we did to tackle this is to produce pamphlets. You cannot believe this, that we have a pamphlet with the names and the telephone numbers of all the hierarchies in the traditional system in Adamawa State, down to the ward person, so that people can call, since telephones are everywhere. 2, the Commissioner of Justice, another dynamo of law, has even drafted bills to ensure that there are certain areas in Adamawa State that has been marked as, no matter how small a rain is, they may flood.
Yes.
And you cannot live in these areas.
Yes.
If you live here, you are committing a crime. In fact, the crime is equated to committing suicide, because your house will collapse, the water will carry your animals and your children and so on. So you literally know that this is going to happen. And this law will be in place to the extent that the planning department will not allow anybody to plan in those flash points. However, the poverty incidences, if they are very high, they will make the human being to respond in different ways. These are common rural people. They are not farming to be rich. They are not commercial farmers. They are subsistence farmers. They are farming to eat. Like he said, when water comes, it comes with silt, it comes with dead animal, wooden debris. By the time it leaves, you have an organic ecosystem that is fantastic. But yeah, this happens naturally, but you can do it artificially too. And it's the same water. If you just take it to another place and it settles down, it will create that. So again, technically, we're looking at that. We're creating partnerships in our state. You will not know the NEMA, the Adamawa State Emergency Management, the police, the whole team has been put together as a hit team, irrespective of disaster. When it comes, you blow a whistle, they are all together. Plus, Adamawa State people are known for being very nice and calm and kind. So the effect, one of the benefits of the effects of insurgency is that it has trained us to be our brother's keepers over time, right? So when floods come, immediately a small creek or river overflows, you will see massive amount of people coming to help each other, to carry children, to carry things, to use their cars and canoes and everything. So it's a matrix of so many things, but very easily can be grouped into 4. Immediate things that can happen, short-term things that you can do, medium-term things that can cater for this frequency to be low, and long-term things that can be able to mitigate this so that we avoid this yearly cycle of things happening.
All right, we're looking at the short-term, the immediate things you can do now, but eventually we'll go on to the long-term plans so as to make sure that, it's not every year. We would have to be calling on NEMA and the respondents to come to our aid. But let's look at the picture. Let's get the experience from Niger as well. The response mechanism in place, how effective it has been. And of course, I'm saying this with an eye on what you hear all the time from people who are relocated and their complaints that, oh, this didn't get to us, what we should have been given, we're not given. And let's hear you.
Yeah, the situation in Niger is a bit different from that of Adamawa State. When the flooding of this year started, we were on top of the situation, going around communities. We engaged all our 8 emirs we have in Niger State, and they have done wonderfully well in helping us pass the information to the communities. And recently there was a meeting with a community with His Excellency the Executive Governor of Niger State, and the communities now have agreed that if given a place, they will relocate.
Really?
Yes. Issue of resistance now, I want to believe in Niger State, with the level of devastation we experienced this year, will be a thing of the past.
But we're looking at this now because what you have just said is something big, really. Is this born out of advocacy or the realization that these losses in terms of human lives is getting to a stage where, you can't keep following it, or, combination of both?
No, the advocacy, yes, advocacy play a very critical role for the people to accept the truth. Because over the years, there has been flooding, year in, year out. And there is this advocacy, year in, year out. Now, they have seen the reality. Each year, we got the predictions. Because of the cultural belief, most of them will tell you, we will not experience flooding. We do experience flooding in 10 years interval. They will tell you, no. If we come back, we said, okay, we're having a meeting, please move. This is the prediction we have gotten. They said, no. We are here hundreds of years. Our great-grandparents were here. So there will not be flooding. But with the current happening, they have come to terms with reality. They have agreed and accepted. Right. If given another place of our board, they will move. But we're having serious challenge.
Yes.
Issue of relocation world over is capital intensive. And that is why we are calling on the federal government as a matter of urgency to assist Niger State. We are happy when the issue of hyperdeck came up. We are happy that yes, finally our people will have solution to the problem that is being disturbing us year in, year out. But unfortunately for us, we don't know what is even for dragging the tech of the hyperdeck. So that is our major challenge. Funding.
And seeing the magnitude of what
the magnitude of what we are facing.
If I may just ask, DG Nema, you were in Lokoja, and we saw the reports of that, and you expressed how devastating the situation there is. While not, are you planning on visiting Niger?
Yeah, we are supposed to visit Niger today, but due to some existential situation, we couldn't go. We are visiting all the 4 states and possibly other 8 states. I've been going around. You might have been seen us around. So surely we'll go.
Okay. Well, let's return to you. I wanted to clarify that to see so you can see the magnitude of what is
what I saw. First, there are 3 steps we took. First, we got the first information from our staffs. Secondly, we set up all stakeholders committees. They went round, and then the report was the same, if not worse. Then I chose to go to Kogi, Lokoja in particular, because of its peculiar position. It's receiving the 2 rivers. Okay, so we just went together with all stakeholders. Ministry of Health was represented, Ministry of Water Resources and all others. But what ignited our decision to really declare national disaster was what we saw. A whole community was submerged. You cannot see a single roof. Where you see roofs, there are few. And then you could say it's the middle of the flood, maybe 3, 4, 5 kilometers radius. I mean, it's quite unimaginable. We could not hesitate. The deputy governor was there. We had to. We did what we were supposed to do yesterday.
Okay. Yeah. Yes, back to you. You see, the situation is in Niger. I always want to argue. I don't think there's any state. The situation is devastating more than that of Niger State. Let me be frank and sincere. We have over 300 communities around the riverine area. When we brief His Excellency of the devastating situation, we showed him some clips. You now feel, no. We went by chopper. We took 2 choppers. Himself, the executive governor of Niger State, and the deputy governor, the chief of staff. In fact, the entire state were on air to see the current situation happening to our people within the riverine area. When we landed in Muye, that is where the governor said, DG, come here. Are you in touch with NEMA? I said, we are in touch. We have sent in our preliminary report to them. So please prepare another report with all the pictorial evidence of what we have seen today is beyond the capacity of Niger State to handle. And up to this moment, the waters are not receding.
Well, if I may come in serious, the issue of whether Niger or other state, I think we can say that we oversee, we coordinate all the activities. We have the first preliminary report that we have, the satellite mapping. We have over 300,000 people displaced. The highest was in Kogi was 84,000, over 84,000. Anambra 67,000. Niger was 55,000. Edo was 28,000, and Delta 24,000. So these are factual issues. I'm not saying the scale of damages in Niger is low. It's really pathetic. It's devastating. So many communities were submerged. I'm very much aware of that.
Okay, and of course the attendant loss of life. But what about the health of the people? We saw in that report, just at the start of this program, certain, NEMA attempts to make sure that the people have good drinking water by providing filtering equipment. How are you coping with that? Because obviously we saw a number of trucks, but here we're dealing with a disaster where hundreds of thousands are involved. How are you coping with the health of the people? What's the response in that area?
Yeah, our response on health issue, the entire Ministry of Health and all relevant agencies were on ground to make sure health services are provided. In fact, I want to appreciate the Nigerian Air Force. They came in quickly with their intervention on health matters. Honestly, we don't have any health issue as far as any outbreak is concerned. But our people are in serious hardship. That is the truth of the matter.
Okay, we'll return to that. But Professor Young, disaster reduction. I mean, it's something that citizens say more attention should be paid to. What are the strategies that you've seen here in terms of, harnessing all efforts, not just government,
Yes.
to push for disaster reduction? Because you can't be losing citizens every year.
Yes. First of all, let me really commend NEMA. I've had many years of association with them because, in my own opinion, it's a very private opinion, NEMA is one of the best performing agencies in Nigeria with respect to their mission. And I say this because I served for 13 years as the president of the Global Alliance for Disaster Reduction, and I've followed their activities over the years. In direct answer to your question, what can be done is, what should be done is to reduce vulnerabilities. Reduce vulnerabilities, and there are many dimensions to that. There is the regulatory aspect, there is the policy aspect, and I give you just a few examples of each.
Right.
And then there is the engineering aspect, there is the market incentive aspect, there is the monitoring aspect, and you have heard in some of the activities of these state agencies and even NEMA elements of some of these. And then there is the international liaison aspect, because the biggest agency on disaster reduction and monitoring worldwide is the World Meteorological Organization, because they are the ones that provide information on what is likely to happen in West Africa, what is likely to East Africa, and many other national agencies link up to them. So at the level of international agreements and all that, that is the agency. And of course, we now have the International Disaster Reduction organs of the United Nations. So that is at the, what I would call internationalism aspect. Second, when it comes to floods, what is very, very important is zonation. That is, where are the most probable, we have to talk probabilities now, because often you do not know for sure something that will happen in the future and what magnitude. So we have to talk about probabilities. What is the 25-year return flood, 50-year return flood, 100-year return? You heard him say that from the experience of some of the local people in Niger State, their experience tells them that these kinds of floods don't come within 10 years. But that is not going to be the case in the future because of climate change. Events that were less frequent are going to be more frequent. So zonation is very important. As a matter of fact, not only should Nigeria have some national vulnerability mapping system, which is the next level that NEMA should go to have vulnerability maps that the local authorities can take and say, you cannot site that building there, okay? And even in environmental impact assessments, those who review and do permits can say, no, you cannot site that factory, that dormitory, and all that there. So that's one stage. Again, that is the policy level, isn't it? And then there is the engineering aspect that this country has not dealt with much yet. You see, preclusions tend to be at two levels for hazards of this nature. In other words, don't build at all there, okay? Then the second level is, if you build there, have this design. You understand? So that there are some towns that if they are in the floodplain, every place is vulnerable. But so you prescribe the design method and the construction method. So places, Lagos, for example. And if you are going to build in some places like Kano or the floodplains in certain parts of the north, it is very difficult to say don't build completely in some places. But the codes, the building codes, have to accommodate the fact that these are some of the probable stresses that will come from this kind of natural phenomena, floods. Okay, then there is a market incentives. The market incentives, you have seen, it is being practiced in Niger State, and I'm sure to some extent in Adamawa State as well. Incentives for people to move from vulnerable areas. He's talking about the national organizations and agencies coming in with some sort of support to have some of the farmers relocate.
Yes.
It's got to be an economic incentive. If some of the people were fishermen living in the lower reaches of those valleys, you take them upland to be upland farmers. There's got to be some sort of retraining. The same issues you have somewhere in the Niger Delta would be the same issues you have for people on the banks of the river Niger or some of the smaller rivers. So economic incentive. The other one is more elaborate monitoring. I talked about earthquakes the other day, but floods are things that can happen in many, many places, much more than earthquakes. You can have floods in mountainous areas. They are flash floods. Okay, so we have to characterize different types of floods and find those places that are perennially vulnerable and other places that are rare occurrences that may not be treated the same way. So those are the examples. Of course, it's got to be research. He mentioned about Nigerian institutions not being so productive in this area. It is Nigeria's most frequent natural hazard, floods. There's no other one in that realm. All the things they fear about earthquake and all that, those are not going to be here. Floods. So those 6 categories of measures have to be done. NEMA does not have the capacity or the mandate to deal with all of them. Okay? NEMA has the capacity and mandate to deal with some of them, that is dealing. Rescue, response, planning, prediction. But there are many others at the regulatory level Remember, there are regulations too.
Okay.
There are codes, building codes. NEMA does not deal with those.
All right. We'll come to those issues as well. But we have a call coming through from Niger. Suleiman calling in from Niger. Is this still there? Yes. Hello, Suleiman. Go ahead.
Yes, I'm still there. Hello, good evening.
Yes, good evening. Go on.
Hello?
Mm-hmm.
Hello?
Go ahead.
Hello? Hello?
Go ahead, Suleiman.
Hello? Okay. Good morning. Good evening.
Just go ahead. Don't worry about the greetings.
Good evening, sir. Okay, I just want to commend the effort of the Director General Niger State Emergency Management Agency, Malai Inga. You are doing a great job. And I just want to say a very big thank you to your efforts that you've been putting in. In fact, it's only God that will reward you. I just want you to hit on the request that you have forwarded to the federal government on their support on the resettlement sites. They should please come to the aid of Niger State. We know you are trying day in, day out. You have been up and doing, and I know you don't sleep on this issue of flooding. But the federal government should please come to the aid of Niger State. Our people are dying year in, year out, and people are suffering. FEMA cannot do it alone. NEMA, please support Niger State. Let the federal government come in, erect buildings and other things for them so that our people will live comfortably for the betterment of our society, Niger State and Nigeria at large. That is my comment. And thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening.
All right, Suleiman, thank you very much. I just hope that you're not one of the victims, and I hope where you stay is not submerged. And stay safe and stay away from flood waters. Well, at this point in time, we'll take a short break. When we return, we will consider how flooding can be turned into a benefit for those communities. Stay with us on NTA Tuesday Live. We'll be back shortly.
Nigerians, our fearless officers and men of the Nigerian military are winning the war against Boko Haram. Today, all occupied territories have been recovered and Boko Haram has been degraded. Our affected brothers and sisters are getting their lives back. However, they are now after you and me. In our mosques, churches, schools, motor parks, markets, entertainment centers, and public gatherings. Be vigilant. Be security conscious. Report suspicious persons, objects, and movements to the police and other security agencies. The security of our nation is a duty for you and me. Nigeria, unite against terrorism.
This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
The struggle for independence had been a long and tough one. Our founding fathers and compatriots sacrificed their comfort and even shed their blood. We cannot at this point in history afford to spirit away their sacrifices for immediate but temporary gains of today. Let us emphasize what unites and not what divides us. Working for the unity of purpose with a stronger vision for a better tomorrow. NTA, growing with the nation.
Nigeria, the only country we can train with remarkable potentials to excel. Let us believe in ourselves and change our attitude for the sake of our country and generations unborn. Let us revive our cultural values, which are our essence as a nation. Let us renew the spirit of patriotism and hope in our dear country. Do not take or give bribe. Be punctual always. No more African time. We can't expect to be global citizens and operate on African time. Join the queue. Insist that people are attended to on a first-come basis, no matter who they are or where they come from.
Nigeria, good people, great nation.
Make you report any crooked person, object or wakajube movement to police and security agent demo.
The security of our nation now work for all of us, so plus including me and you.
Nigeria, make we unite against terrorism. Now, Federal Minister of Information and Culture bring on this message.
NTA Tuesday Live, a network issue-oriented innovation talk show.
Thanks for staying with us on NTA Tuesday Live. We're trying so hard not to use the cliche of stemming the tide of flooding, but that's something we have to consider really and put a stop to it. So first, let's see enforcing of regulations. Prof talked about codes. All the discussants here tonight have talked about that. Enforcing regulations. People build where they're not supposed to build. What happens? Sometimes it would seem to those of us observing that the authorities just go to sleep and leave it. And then, when disaster strikes, the same people will turn around and demand attention from the authorities. How do we go about that?
Well, I have little to say on that because it's not part of NEMA's mandate to enforce all provisions of the building codes, urbanization or planning is urban development agencies are entirely the responsibility of the state governments. However, like I said, the fundamental responsibility of government is to save life and properties, and it appears even a small house that catch fire anywhere in the country, it was called NEMA. So sometimes it's really one cannot understand. I may have to use this opportunity to enlighten people about the structure as far as disaster management is concerned. We have vertical and horizontal relationship of states, of the federal, that we have NEMA, the state, SEMA, and the local emergency management committee at the local level. So for you to have an effective disaster management, the structure must be made to function properly. Unfortunately, we have a weak link. Most of the state emergency management agency remain the weakest link as far as disaster management structure in this country. Furthermore, federal government, by the provision of the policies, approved policies by government, is supposed to respond only to catastrophic disasters such as this. So you discover that a minor disaster NEMA is called about. We sometimes get overstretched because if you don't do it, because the mentality has been built on the fact that every disaster NEMA is called. So we do all we could to enlighten the state governments to make sure that they fund the same as they build their capacity. We provide, sometimes we train them, like he rightly said, we do a lot of things too, but it's so difficult to get them really function properly. So apart from the issue of improper planning, there are issues of dumping of refugees in a manner that is really animalistic. The way we do things in this part of the world, I think we need to change this. The Ministry of Environment at the state must stand up to its own responsibility and ensure that dumping of refugees, they must have a system, maybe basket system. Everybody must keep a truck going around to pick them and then dump them. If today, the refuse is a blessing even because it's used to generate power. So we should always, Dr. Binder, I'm sure he can say much about that. But these are our problems, and we must do anything we can to change the psyche of average Nigerian in terms of dumping of refuse.
All right, let's go over to the phones again, and we have Kenneth calling in from Makudi. Hello. Hello. Kenneth calling from Makudi. Go right ahead if you can hear us.
Yeah, hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, hello.
Go right ahead.
Yeah, hello. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good evening.
Evening.
Thank you. I want to say that the federal government is actually trying quite, but we really need to think outside the box. What I mean by outside the box is that we should be thinking of measures on how to do away with this menace of flooding. From 2012 to this period, Nigerian states has not been on the way they're supposed to be, because it happened in Benue here sometimes last year, and it was not a funny experience. We should be thinking of trying to dredge the rivers, River Benue and River Niger. Dredging them, I think it will help us a long way. And another one is that we should have good dams. We can dig good dams, do them in a very standard way. I think when those people, the Lagdo Dam from Cameroon, will release their water, and those dams will just look as, in a way, the water will be contained in. But every year we're talking about flooding. Are we doing all those things to get money? But I understand very well everything in Nigeria is being politicized. And this is really, really bad. So the federal government, I'm calling on the federal government, all the authorities, the states, and the local government, and all the agencies in this country, let us try as a country, as a people. We should dredge the rivers, dig dams that can contain these waters. We should be talking about development. We should be talking about, every year we talk about flood. Will people come to, donate items, and people benefit from all those things? Is that how we're supposed to be thinking? No. So I challenge the federal government, I challenge the state government, and everybody that has anything to do with these things, let us come out as people. Do what is right. We should stand firm. People outside there are laughing at us. We have the money, we have almost everything on ground. Why are we trying to just force some of those things? Some people talk about it's a natural disaster. I agreed with you. But the natural disasters, sometimes we cause them ourselves. We know very well that there's some measures we have to take, there's some steps we have to take to do away with this kind of menace. Why are we keeping quiet? Why are we just silent like this? I expect that the federal government should be thinking beyond asking people to live on the higher ground. This is not good for a country like Nigeria, for crying out loud. We should think outside the box. We should think very good. Why not the government just budget money for a particular year, maybe it's for 6 months? The money sometimes we use for some certain things, and then try to dredge the rivers, have big dams that can contain these waters, so that we can be talking about people are suffering almost every year. I want to tell you people, I've seen this kind of experience in my state from 2012 to last year. We have been seeing it. We're even expecting that the water will become even by next month or so. So why is it like this? We should go to the rural areas and see the way people are suffering. I watched the documentaries, I watched all the reports on television. I was like, why are we just relaxing on this particular matter? So, Siri and the Director General of NEMA in the studio, please. This report, I know very well by tomorrow this would be tracked on news, and the federal government should start up, and all the state governments should stand up, and let's try as people, they should have, a good thinking about this thing. Get into this particular program and then bring out money. The federal government should budget a particular money to dredge River Benue and River Niger that can contain this water. Thank you very much, and God bless Nigeria.
All right, thank you very much, Kenneth from Makudi there. Well, the states are represented here, but first, before we begin to ask how we'll put a stop to this, you heard the suggestion that Kenneth has made.
Yeah, I think he's a great guy, and it's a fantastic decision. And for me, I would have been very more strategic at both federal and state. The federal government must take this flooding very seriously to the extent that we should declare some institutions, specialist institutions, in this infrastructure, the history, the environmental impact assessment capability, and the unleashing of opportunities of flooding into specific, if it means creating specific or converting some of these universities of technology to specifically be universities of water management or environmental management or whatever, so that we can start producing people of the highest level of capacity to manage these type of things that are very simplistic. Two, just like the federal government has trunk A roads that is moving people on highways from one point to the other, and then it cascades to state government having their own roads, local government having their own roads. Federal government should also consider it strategic to canalize water from areas of plenty to areas where there is no water, so that we can convert our agriculture into 24/7, 365 production cycle. We should be able to feed ourselves. We should be able to generate employment to our teeming youth and commercialize agriculture. Three, in my opinion, the Adamawa scenario, in most cases, you'll find that even Yola and Jimeta has flooded areas. That is the biggest cities that we have. But just like the DG Nema said, His Excellency the Governor, immediately he came, this time around, he was constructing fantastic roads. Cyril, you were there, you saw, with drainages that can last for 50 years. But I mean, a lot of people actually, because they live in drier areas, they think drainages are actually buckets for filling up with refuse so that you contain, So I think, again, it's education, advocacy, using all sorts of techniques to make sure that people understand that drainages is for draining water, not for draining anything. You will find mechanics on drainages, you'll find bottles on drain, you find everything in drain. So when water comes, everywhere is blocked. Even if it is blocked, when these things are carried, the culverts and everything gets blocked, and then you get... And then finally, you see, this whole thing is manageable in some sense. I mean, I pity, excuse me, states like Kogi. Lokoja itself, in my opinion, is badly located, if you know what I mean. You just see that they don't have space. They are just sitting on the edge of the confluence. And whether there is flooding or not, you cannot, avoid thinking that this spot will be flooded at some point. It's not like flash points where flood will happen and then you start screaming your heads off. So I think, in my opinion, that there must be regulatory structures by law so that planning becomes very sharp in Nigeria, and then enforcing the planning codes and violation of these planning codes should be firm. In that regard, political will has to come in. I know in some states, even when you want to move people, if that area is actually giving you votes and the area says that they don't want to move, the political class will say, don't touch them. Even if it is going to... This, we have to mature out of this to be able to demonstrate political will that if it is bad, it's bad. If it is good, it's good. But I think Nigeria, with the kind of intellectual capacity we have, the potential we have, we should even be seeing investors moving into Nigeria to take advantage of these fresh waters that are all over. We are not exporting fish. We are not exporting crops that utilizes water. We are not drinking clean water everywhere. See the myriad of opportunities, but I think we should overpower this and raise the bar of the development of our country and be able to talk in different language.
All right, we'll return to the enforcement of regulations, but let's go to the phones, and we have Isaac calling in from Port Harcourt. Hello, Isaac. Hello, Isaac. Can we put Isaac's name on so that you can see and know he's on?
Hello, sir. Good evening.
Yes, good evening.
I am calling from Port Harcourt. I've been following... Yes, sir. I'm calling from Port Harcourt. I've been following your discussions and it's quite incisive. Okay. I've been following what you have been discussing, and it's quite appreciating. I really like the job NEMA has been doing, and I like the valuable contribution of the last speaker and Professor Hilary Yang. I agree with what the last speaker, the last caller just said with regards to developing our infrastructure to avert this kind of occurrences. If we can put in a more proactive measure using our capability criteria, we can have gaps along those ways to avert these issues. We should be proactive rather than reactive. And I believe there's a lot of positive gains we can get by using these resources, water, to our benefits in terms of aquaculture, fisheries, and agriculture. Furthermore, I want to also say that I want to believe that there are severe health implications of overflooding because we have the soakaway pits and all the related sewages that have been flooded by water. And this can lead to waterborne diseases on one part. Secondly, I'm looking at since the rivers have overflown their banks via the floods now, it's very possible we have dangerous creatures, reptiles, and amphibians creeping in from the waterways close to population where we have people. They can easily be harmed. That's another issue that should be looked forward to. Finally, sirs, I would say that as I reside in Port Harcourt, the sad news of the water flooding have not given me a single rest. I'm looking at Bayelsa, Port Harcourt. Well, I'm close to Delta, for crying out loud. I do just hope that someday, we will not have a situation whereby the floods will approach us here. While we wait towards God to take care of that, we hope that Nigeria will be able to do what's right for all of our good. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you very much, Isaac. And it goes back to what they talked about, planning and all that. But again, enforcing regulations, attitudinal change, these are all part of it. How do we bring this to bear?
Yeah, Cyril, I just want to make some issues clear here. The DG NEMA said some of the states are not adequately funded. I don't know. But as far as Niger State is concerned, in the last 3 years, we are adequately funded. The governor has spent nothing less than 800 million on intervention into various emergencies. Recently, when this flooding started, he graciously approved the sum of 65 million naira for a quick relief intervention to the affected communities, which already by tomorrow, the distribution will start. We have another approval again of 28 million naira for another 7 communities that were completely submerged. We should support them. We are camping them now in Zungiru Central Primary School. For issue of funding, as far as Niger State is concerned, I want to be fair to my governor. We are adequately funded. The reason why we even declare the situation that is overwhelming, we cannot do it because of the situation we find ourselves. That is on the issue of funding. I want to come back to what the doctor said. I will agree with him, but there's more to it.
All right.
One, yeah, we can have institutions, but already we have another thing on ground that is yet to kickstart. Issue of hyperdeck. People are not saying anything about it. If hyperdeck is fully operational, I'm telling you, most of these issues will be adequately taken care of. So I want us to look at, yeah, we can have institutions.
Okay.
But the institutions will take time for us to have the capacity we are looking at. But we have an institution being agreed.
Okay.
By
hyperdeck being for those areas that have hydroelectric power stations and they have these dams.
Yes.
Okay, we'll come to that, but let's get this other call from Mohammed calling in from Niger. Hello, Mohammed. Mohammed, can you go on?
Good evening.
Yeah, evening.
I'm Mohammed calling from Nigeria.
Mm-hmm.
My little contribution to this program is that we have serious challenge in this country. Because what I'm saying this is that anything that happens in any other state, it happens to Nigeria. And sometimes we wait to when first incident occurs before we take measures. According to the speakers here, is that the only thing Nigeria should do, and the federal government, is to find lasting solution to those problems. It's not an issue of coming to Tuesday live every day and be talking this, talking that. Understand? Solutions should be found, because what took a life of somebody, is not a joke. You understand? According to a military man, they say if one soldier dies, it's equal to 10 billion. You understand? So we should look for a lasting solution. According to the speaker, I said that we should build a dam so that, because of one day you just be sitting down in your house, you just see flow from nowhere. You understand? Because they say year in, year out. You understand? And from the DG, from the Niger State, to be frank, he's trying his best. Kudos to him. And according to what he says, federal government needs to support Niger State. You need to come to those rural areas and see what is happening. I'm telling you, people are suffering. There is no shelter for those who know where to live. That is just my little contribution.
All right. Thank you, Mohammed. Indeed, part of the aims of this program is to provide solutions to these issues. But before we go back to Professor Iyan, it's agreed that this has caused so much devastation. You have included the Ministry of Agriculture, even the DG name has said that. It tells you that there are concerns about food production, food shortages. How are you addressing that? First, Niger.
Yeah, before even the flooding situation, there's a program with the Ministry of Agriculture on dry season farming, and which is a scheme that is aimed to addressing issue of any food insecurity, because we know it in Niger State we do have issue of flooding. So that's why there's a program for dry season farming to address any gap that may come as a result of this flooding situation. That is what we have on ground.
All right. Dr. Binder.
Yeah, it's the similar thing. In Adamawa State, we first of all ensure that our leader constantly is on top of this. The team, NEMA actually is fantastic with our ATSEMA, and the government supports them very well. Two, just like most states that are actually enjoying the FADAMA facilities of the World Bank and then the Ankoboras program through the central bank, we have an enormous amount of production capability, to the extent that we can boast in the last 2 years to be the largest producer of rice in Nigeria, based on the strategic push of people to produce all year round in certain of these areas. Three, now Nigeria can see that some few months ago it was hardest farmers crisis in a number of areas that right now are prone to flooding. Then all of a sudden, farmers hardest crisis disappeared, and then now it's flooding. The same local government areas. That should actually teach people to know that water plays a role in this, and it should be managed very well as a solution. And I'm sure NEMA is smiling, but I'm sure it's on his desk to actually work very closely with the Ecological Fund to make sure that they design these type of things. But in summary, moving information, getting people to know where to go and what to do as short-term measures are strictly things that can curb these type of things. His Excellency, our governor, has even tackled other areas. Areas where there's flooding, with the way we live. You have shallow wells boreholes and all the garbage scattered, and then you have flood. It's literally like a martini of crisis. And therefore, what he does is incredible. They're buying water treatment plants, but what we do is that we have industrial boreholes in the hinterland. We buy tankers and then water containers, and then be able to constantly serve them before we now tackle better solutions where these things
are. So quick interventions. Back to the phones from Ogun is Sunday calling in from Ogun. Hello, Sunday.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much. I just want to contribute. The problem we have in terms of this disaster is caused by human beings. Our corruption is the disaster we have today. We cannot escape it. Our corruption is our disaster we have today. We cannot escape it. It's too late.
Hello, Sunday. Oh dear. Oh dear. Well, interesting. That's another angle to it. It says it's a corruption that's responsible for it. And of course, you do know that they say corruption fights back. So I hope there wasn't corruption fighting back to stop him from there. But Sunday, just try to call in again and we'll see if you can take that. Because I wanted to get that. That's an interesting angle and says it's the corruption that is causing all of this. I'd like to get that angle. But Prof, well, they say everything you do, there has to be a scientific basis for it, and you must be able to explain this all. But we've talked about regulation, and someone suggested dredging the main rivers and dams and all that. So mitigating the effects of floods when they come, and what we can do to harness this huge, body of water that you have. Ravaging communities and states, and use it for benefit.
Yes. Much of Nigeria's precipitation is wasted. This is clearly the case. Take the case of some countries that are low-lying but have done very well. Look at the Netherlands, for example. The Netherlands is a very good example. I can see the DG of them are nodding. I'm sure he's visited there. Yeah. They have managed their flooding tendencies very well. You can use this flood water to create reservoirs. There are very few reservoirs in Nigeria that are rain-fed now. Some places where, Nigeria has in some of the lowland areas have sandy foundations. So there is fear that if you try to detain this water, it's going to percolate and you lose large volumes of this. But these days, there are geotextiles, geomembranes that are used as liners at the bottom. So some of those areas, especially in places like Ogun, where the gentleman was calling from, Port Harcourt, and so forth, it rains a lot in those places, and in some cases they don't have water that they could use to do things. A lot of this water can be used in construction, for example. It's not all the water that can be used for drinking purposes. The water can be held in impoundments and treated for use in industrial processes, like done in many other areas. That is one. Now, you said solutions with respect to drainage too. Some of the states are lucky in the sense that they are essentially well drained. Take a state like Cross River State, very well drained, and many other states. But others are not that lucky, so they've got to embark on channelization. And one of the biggest problems, as pointed out by basically every panelist here, is that in those areas that you have very low relief, a lot of the states in Nigeria have low relief. What the implication is if you carry a gora, a drainage channel, at a certain slope, usually those slopes are flat in those areas. Okay, so to have a declination that is enough for water to run, sometimes you have to go very, very far. So folks block this. When they block them like they do in Lagos, you certainly cannot have drainage as designed. So the state agencies have to be much more proactive and enforce the local building codes. And
Okay, let's ask you to pause a while. So we take this call. Sokoto, from Sokoto, Mohammed. Is Mohammed still with us?
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to greet all of you. Yeah, I want to say that every year there used to be National Council on Environment. I want to say that everywhere there used to be National Council on Environment.
Mohammed, turn down the volume of your
all
TV.
The commissioners of environment.
Turn down the volume of your TV, Mohammed. We can hear the hurlback, the echo. So just turn down the volume, cut it out, and then you speak. We can hear you clearly. So you don't need the hurlback. You don't need to listen to your voice on radio or TV. Just cut down the volume, and so we can hear you clearly. All right, well, that's it. Yes, back to the issue of finding solutions, lasting solutions this time around. And we looked at the short term, medium term, and then now the long terms to make sure. One other aspect is Dr. Minder talked about certain agreements, particularly with Cameroon, regarding the release of water from. He says that Nigeria has not really taken a hard look at these agreements. Now, gentlemen, do you think there's need to review certain aspects of what kind of agreements you have with Cameroon, for instance? What about collaboration across borders? And when we're done with that, we come to interagency collaboration, particularly in the states, involving all those who have one thing or the other to do with this. Well, NEMA, of course, really says it doesn't handle all aspects. There are other agencies of state whose business and responsibility it is to enforce certain rules and regulations. We would like to find out the level of collaboration with those and how they have been able to impound that. But first, let's look at it from the international side. Any need to review whatever agreements we have?
Well, to the best of my knowledge, every agreement written, signed, or endorsed give a window for review. So if I don't know the agreement, but if we feel that yes, the agreement is one-sided, we can call for review of that agreement. That is on the issue of the agreement. However, there are other steps the government could take to really make this problem, rather to solve this problem on a permanent basis or on a long-term basis. One of which was issue of setting out a dam along River Niger. River Benue is being controlled. I mean, River Niger is being controlled because there are dams. River Benue, there's not a single dam across. Experts says having a dam could provide certain solution. But I think it is a practice. When you have a river, such big rivers that we have, you need to desilt them periodically. So this has been, I mean, at every forum, this issue has been discussed. But as NEMA, everything that happens regarding flooding came to us as a backslash. So what I will promise, I mean, I will tell Nigerians that we'll really approach government with a very comprehensive proposal incorporating all agencies that are really responsible to come up with a lasting solution, a proposal that could provide a lasting solution. I must use this opportunity to really appreciate Prof. Doctor and this, and of course the viewers for appreciating what NEMA is doing. And I must also say that it's not, the staffs of NEMA has been up and down. I must commend their efforts and thank you all.
All right. Well, just a quick one from Kebi. Mohammed, if you're still there, another Mohammed. It's about the third one we've had. This from Kebi. Is it still there?
Hello,
Mohammed. You're on TV.
Yeah, good evening. My name is Mohammed. I'm calling from Kebi.
Go on.
My contribution is from your second guest that called and that talk about the flood issue from Adamawa State.
Yes, go on.
I wanted to use this opportunity to call on the agency to go back to the drawing board. In our early 90s, we all know that due to lack of sanitations, we have normal sanitation that we do at the end of the month, Saturdays. In my own state, we do experience such kind of things. During the raining hours, we will see the drainage being blocked up by refuse. There's no way water will pass in. Such things causes.
All right. What he's trying to say is, enforce regulations about indiscriminate dumping of refuse. Fine. And yes, blocked drains have also contributed largely to flooding. Now, we talked about enforcing regulations and interagency collaboration. You're DG of the State Emergency Management Agency. It's not in your purview to insist that someone does not build across, the line of water, that someone does not situate their building or dump their refuse in a drain. So how do you collaborate with the other agencies whose duty it is to enforce these?
Yeah, I want to borrow the language of DG NEMA. Use the political will. The governor of Niger State is having the political will to make sure Niger Light are well protected and far away from hazards. He have empowered all relevant agencies saddled with responsibility to execute them in respect of whoever is involved. For example, what we experienced in 2016 in Suleja is something that we cannot forget in a hurry. But we thank God we have a GM who the governor have given him the mandate to do the proper thing and the right thing at the right time. In Niger State this year, we have not experienced flash flooding within the major cities except that of Kontagora.
Right.
Which is at the back of the town. But within the town, what gave us that success is a result of the 100% dissertation of waterways within the towns. We did not experience, and the construction of new ones. I think we're enjoying a very good relationship with all relevant stakeholders and agencies. We do receive complaints from people, and immediately any agency that is saddled with any responsibility, they say, okay, look, this is the complaint. Can you please do it? Before you know it, that situation will be handled properly. And lastly, I want to tell DG NEMA that MENA Operation Office, they are doing wonderfully well. We carry out programs as if we are operating under the same umbrella. We don't have a rivalry issue with NEMA in Niger State. We are in touch in every minute.
All right.
Whatever is happening in Niger State, If I didn't get the information, if NEMA gets the information, I'm their first point of call. And if I get any situation that I feel this is going to overpower my capacity, I said, Kafindenyi, where are you? This is the situation. It's not that we are not appreciating, but the situation we find ourselves now, honestly, call for us to cry more louder for DG NEMA to know what we are facing in Niger State. It's not a child play.
Well, he said he's going to be in Niger.
You've sent a relief this afternoon.
Yes, we received a relief item for Zingeru IDP camp. Kafindenyi called and he gave us the letter and the items. Most of the items have moved to the camp.
Okay.
We really appreciate it.
And he has also promised to visit Niger, so hold him up
no,
to that.
Right. I will be rushing back to Mina tomorrow morning to receive him.
If we don't go with the president, we'll go with the vice president. That is, yes.
Okay, I pray the president will come.
Fantastic.
Because,
yes.
Mr. Cyril, we have one issue at Zingeru.
Yes.
And I will pray and love the president to be there himself.
Right.
We are housing 3 hydrological dams. The 4th one is on the way.
All right.
You understand? We have issues. We want to press. Let this hyperdeck be fully operational. Niger Delta, the oil producing state, are enjoying from this. So we pray tomorrow you come with Mr. President so that our locals will tell him, I know he listens to local people because he believes in them. You understand? So I want him to come himself tomorrow so that the local people will tell him how they feel about the current situation happening in Niger State.
All right. Now, teacher, just quickly, do you face issues of rivalry as well, agency rivalry?
Well, our responsibility is clear. I can't see anywhere there is any, so we don't have anything like that.
You don't face those issues at all. But well, they run to you all the time. Everybody puts it on them, and then there are also other respondents.
So there is no. I don't have. We don't have time for any rivalry.
Dr. Bindu.
They actually cannot, because he has a structure at the state level, and there is a counterpart agency at the state. There is no way they can have rivalry. But for Adamawa State, really, like you started on the agreement for the Lagdo Dam, I think we need to learn to utilize our internal capacity resources from the institutions of engineering, hydrology, water, technical, and so on. Put people together to look at this. How we can, if you go to the Nile and you see all the countries enjoying on the Nile, they have a Nile management kind of consortium that you cannot just build a dam anyhow. Egypt is there watching you, and so on. So we need to look at this so that the Lagdo Dam occurring every year should be minimized. Secondly, there was a plan ages ago to build House Asin Dam, so that it is a buffer dam, like he said. Every major river must have dams to be able to curb these type of things. This has been on the drawing board. We need to make sure that we do this with a fantastic environmental impact assessment associated to it. 3, most of the heavily flooded areas are on the River Benue. River Benue has silted so much so that the riverbed is actually at par with where people are living. So any amount of water can only spread. Somehow, maybe some, whatever they call it, broken, not really dredging like most people think, which is expensive, but you can dig here to allow silting to happen, narrow these.
Steel basins.
Exactly. So silting basins are sort of 4. I think our government is doing very well in that, in trying to take the opportunities presented by flooding so that we can be able to become exporters of fish, we can be able to become exporters of rice, and so on and so forth, using these resources. Again, we will work as a consortium with all the institutions that are relevant to make sure that we push this particular menace in our states to be over, to be quite honest.
Well, Prof, climate change and flooding, even as we speak, there are still dissenting voices. Is this real, climate change? In fact, you have world leaders who don't believe in it.
I think it's much more out of opposition to science than to anything else. In science, we look at the weight of evidence. The weight of evidence is that the climate has been changing because of so many factors. Sometimes there is what we call noise. The fact that you have this time and then it does that, but the trend is what we look at. So the truth is that the climate has been warming up for very many centuries. This year's, the intergovernmental panel on global climate change, most countries are now in agreement, and we are working in a world in which we expect a 2 degrees centigrade rise, and we are all preparing in many parts of the world for this. Nigeria cannot be an exception. As a matter of fact, there's a unit in the Nigerian Federal Ministry of Environment that deals with Nigeria's commitment to activities and infrastructure and operational modes in energy that takes into consideration the fact that Nigeria has taken a stand on that.
Is there a detraction from the fact that the current U.S. government is not given to this?
I have to be very careful in my response.
Yes, but because I am bringing this up because it is quite possible that your professionals too could cite, this as an example and say, well, why do you want to put X, Y, Z into this when there's no unanimity about whether it really is?
But the belief in the U.S. in the global climate change and what the impacts are likely to be is not something that can be contravened by a very short political term.
All right.
You know what I mean by that. In other words, the United States institutions, the infrastructure systems in the United States, and now the energy industry, which used to oppose it in the past, is now even taking steps in the adaptation scheme, in the mitigation scheme to do something about this. So please, the global community should not be fooled by what may seem to be a step back, because that step back is very temporary.
All right. And finally, this program, funding has been mentioned as one of the biggest issues here. NEMA, how do your resources come in?
Well, as an engineer and former businessman, I understand the need for optimum utilization of resources. When I took over, we had to take a step to reduce all excesses, to cut down unnecessary expenses, so that we could save enough to face the challenges of disaster management. Added to that, we have a president who really respond to our need whenever we need. We took off this issue when it became critically. Before you know, he approved up to 3 billion naira to move in. So resources generally inherently is scarce, but the use of it, if it's done wisely, solves problems. So this is what I can say about resources, funding of our
Well, let's just get this clear because, it's all over that NEMA got 3 billion. And so, a tendency, common calculations will say, right, they have 3 billion, and everyone thinks this is just going to go for grabs.
Surely not.
Okay.
I want to assure Nigerians that we have a president who has eagle eyes looking at us, who really frown at corruption, and we support all the concept of fighting corruption. So I want to assure Nigerians this money will be properly utilized for the purpose it is given for.
All right. But on a last note, we'll just say you've put 8 more states under close scrutiny. Yes, it is in the nature of Nigerians to say, no, it's not going to happen, but it may well happen. Are you prepared for that eventually?
We are really prepared. We have the structure. It has never, such kind of arrangement and plan has never happened in the agency. We have a lot of policies developed. We have a national disaster response plan. This is a complete document, appropriate government, and I insist that we must follow it diligently, carefully as it is, and this is why we activated all the steps we have taken in activation, national contingency plan, activating emergency operation units. The structures are there, the personnel are there. I must tell you, the NEMA personnel are well trained by international organizations from the inception, 1999, and they are still supporting us. Like, for example, we are reviewing the national contingency plan with UNICEF. They are funding the whole review process. So I must tell you that for preparation purposes, we are really prepared. To add to that, the moment declaration was done, European Commission approached us with offering giving us 3 offers of assistance. Satellite mapping, even the information I gave out, we got it from them. Also civil protection, senior experts, environmental experts, dam integrity experts. Lastly, they also offer to give relief items, logistics supplies such as Bailey bridges, to really assist us logistically in going around the flooded area. So these are some of the. I will also call on all other agencies. The NEMA Acts give us the mandate to receive donations from anybody, from anywhere across the world. So with that, we are open to receive any assistance. So I believe this gives us a window to say that, yes, we are really prepared.
All right. Well, it is on that note we must leave this conversation. The talk about stemming the perennial flooding in Nigeria is by no means over. We'll keep up with developments as they occur. And I do suppose, Dr. Bender, you are prepared for that too. Yes, the water has not been released from Lagdo Dam yet, but the water is rising. So, and you are in the line of
our commitment to follow the tenets of the political will and leadership of our governor is showcasing results. In 3.5 years, he's changed this, and we believe that when he come 2019, the changes will be better and more solid.
Okay. From Niger, we expect that the same goes for you, and the preparations that you in a high state of preparedness for any more flooding.
Yeah, we are seriously having concern for any eventuality. That is why all relevant stakeholders are fully engaged.
All right, and it is on this note we must bring this conversation to